Mussel Buoys. There'd been a storm, so we were the only ones at the campsite. We pitched the tent by a sprawling pahurakaua tree, the silver pegs leaving hypertrophic scars in the wet earth. The grass was wet, the clothes and towels were tied to the branches with ropes to dry were wet. All the ends flew like kites, the clothes, the ropes, our hair, soaring and then drooping, like waiting out a scene in a dream where you're flying higher and higher, but too soon you start to sink, feet nearly dragging on the floor, and you have to muster enormous strength to float again. The only person we saw during those days was a local farmer with a Jack Russell called Molly. She said an old rubbish dump had been exhumed by a large slip, and now you could find antique liquor bottles a few bays over. We became interested, even though we'd had no prior interest in collecting. I guess it was something to do, something to have. It was summer, and we'd let our phones die. The car was filled with trash and rubbish bags of stuff we'd packed for the month. It stunk of the bachelor's handbag we'd been having for dinner, you know, the bagged roast chickens. The clouds choked out the sky, just one column of a strained neck. The night the rain stopped was the night we saw the first mussel buoy. The air had a puffy, buoyant quality, and the sea was an orange clay mask. I saw something bobbing in the waves. It looked big and rocked in a slow, metronomic rhythm that made me doubt it was a person, but just in case, I ran down the bank and shouted at him to come check it out. He was doing a poo in the public toilets, but he sped it up, and then we just stood there, arms around each other's waists, waiting. As it got closer, we saw it was a black plastic thing, shaped sort of like a blown-up pearl in a Neptune's necklace. There was nothing to diminish our hope then, and that feeling seemed to draw on the object, and that made us feel powerful, which in turn magnified the hope. We fantasized it could be a case of cocaine, we'd be rich, and if an armed group showed up in cars, we'd outrun them. When it washed up, we saw it was just a mussel buoy, but its size and unexpected arrival was enough for us to want to keep it. So he pulled it up the hill, gripping the small cut of tattered rope left from when it had broken off from its farm. That night, the wind thrashed, trying to shake off the quilted sky. The waves revved up snores, the night around it consciously still, trying to keep from waking it up. The sea grunted, sleep-talked instructions, and then rolled clumsily on its side. I dreamt of a mako shark with a human face, baby blue lashes all around its shriveled, pruny eyes, like cracks in ice sheets. It was small and flat, laying in a low plastic tub with just a few inches of water. In the morning, I woke with the same mild panic in my stomach, but it was summer, nothing was wrong. For breakfast, we ate canned tuna, the tin lid carefully folded into a spoon. Then he said he was going to do some exercise and disappeared. I reminded myself that if you're jealous of some quality some person has, then you should just try harder to get good at it. But I set up a low camper chair and leaned back against the big mussel buoy, settled into a book. A couple hours later, he appeared over the hill, panting, pulling a second mussel buoy. In the days that followed, more and more boys turned up, each one identical, each much bigger than me. They looked like vessels, portents. They became a chore, a burden, but he couldn't let them go. He complained that once he saw one, he couldn't leave it, but he said it with a smile. The wind sounded like the cracking of mussel shells. The boys littered the field. On the final night, deep into the jammy dark, the birds screamed. They screamed on and on. Sometimes it sounded like they were getting closer. Then I felt them in my chest, wings beating, climbing up my throat. I clamped my teeth shut. Scared, I kicked him a couple times, but he didn't wake up. In the morning, I began cleaning the car, got it ready for our drive back. Brushed sand off the seats, binned fruit peels and empty cans. I found some pallid bits of chicken on the floor and gathered them to throw to the birds, but he stopped me, said, "I'll eat them." The plastic bachelor's handbag blew out the door. I didn't see where it went.